My girlfriend texted, "I befriended your therapist on Facebook, and she told me everything about your sessions. You're more messed up than I thought, LOL." I replied, "Thanks for letting me know." Then I contacted the licensing board with screenshots and filed an ethics complaint. When my ex-therapist's career started crumbling and she revealed who manipulated her. My name is Mark, 29, and I've been living with Jenna, 27, for about a year now. 6 months into our cohabitation, she's sending me messages like this, exposing my private life in ways I never imagined possible. I stared at the screen in disbelief, the edges of panic slowly creeping in, not anger, not hurt, panic. My hands were trembling, not from rage, but from the sheer violation. The woman I trusted, my girlfriend, the person I thought I could confide in, and my therapist, who was supposed to be a sanctuary of trust, had conspired in the most unimaginable way. It all started 8 months ago when I began therapy. Childhood trauma, divorce, narcissistic mother, the usual baggage that leaves you hesitant to trust anyone. Dr. Helen Brooks, mid-40s, highly recommended, specialized in family trauma, had been guiding me through the mess. Sessions were helping. I was slowly learning to untangle years of fear and self-doubt. Then, out of nowhere, this text. I scrolled back, read it again, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Jenna had added Dr. Brooks on Facebook, something I hadn't even considered, and had been chatting with her. Over the past 2 weeks, apparently, they had shared my therapy sessions in detail. My childhood struggles, trust issues, my complicated relationship with my parents. Jenna even said Dr. Brooks thought I might be bipolar. I froze. My pulse raced as I slowly realized the implications. HIPAA, ethics, federal laws protecting patient privacy. Dr. Brooks had accepted a Facebook friend request without verifying it was appropriate, and my girlfriend had essentially manipulated her into betraying every boundary that exists. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I documented everything. Screenshots of Jenna's texts, timestamps, the small, incriminating admissions about their interactions. Then I began researching. State licensing boards, HIPAA violations, codes of conduct. Every lunch break was spent compiling evidence, printing invoices showing I was an active patient, saving public Facebook interactions, everything. Scrolling through Dr. Brooks' profile, irony screamed back at me. Inspirational quotes about trust, safe spaces, confidentiality, all while she was liking Jenna's selfies and exchanging cryptic messages about discussing concerns. There was one message. "Jenna, so grateful for our chat. Let's meet soon and talk more about what we covered." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a casual conversation. They were planning, diagnosing, strategizing, weaponizing my own vulnerabilities. And this all started 2 weeks after a fight about my ex. The realization hit me. The fight I'd processed in therapy had now become fuel for manipulation against me. I went home that evening, trying to maintain composure, but the tension in the apartment was suffocating. Jenna was on the couch, glass of wine in hand, acting casual. "We're not going to talk about this," she said. "About what?" I asked, calm but deliberate. "You violating my trust. My therapist breaking federal law. Which part would you like to discuss?" Her eyes rolled, a dismissive glare that tried to make her seem nonchalant. She downplayed it, said she was just trying to understand me better. My mouth went dry. "Jenna, what exactly did Dr. Brooks tell you?" She smirked, drunk on a mixture of wine and power. My deepest vulnerabilities, every emotional breakdown, every confessional recounted with surgical precision. I didn't shout. I didn't panic. I catalogued. I observed. Every word was another nail in the coffin of trust that had been shattered. She admitted that they had been analyzing me, coaching each other on how to manipulate my reactions, planning how to control situations, and even diagnosing me without consent. The fight about my ex had been used as justification, my private life weaponized. The depth of the betrayal was so staggering that I could only sit, collect evidence, and plan the next steps. I didn't react to her jabs or drunken deflections. I simply documented. By the end of that evening, I had a folder on my laptop labeled Ethics Violation Evidence. Screenshots, Facebook interactions, session invoices, detailed notes. I went to bed with a mind buzzing, not with thoughts of revenge, but with the clarity of documentation. This was no longer about hurt feelings, was about accountability. And in that quiet moment, I realized something crucial. I wasn't overreacting. My instincts had been screaming for weeks that something was off, and now I had proof. The next morning, Jenna was gone. Cleared out her things, left a note that simply read, "You need help." Perfect. I didn't have to confront her about moving out. She'd done it herself. A fleeting sense of relief washed over me, but the bigger battle had just begun. Dr. Brooks. Monday morning, I drafted a formal complaint to the State Board of Behavioral Sciences. 12 pages, meticulously documenting every violation. Screenshots, timestamps, Facebook exchanges, session invoices, detailed timelines, everything. My heart pounded as I hit send. I had no idea how fast or how deeply this would spiral. Within 48 hours, I got a call from an investigator named Robert. His tone was calm but serious. "Mr. Peterson, we take HIPAA and ethical violations seriously. Can you come in Thursday to provide a detailed statement?" I agreed, collecting myself, mentally preparing to recount the entire nightmare. That Thursday, I spent 3 hours with Robert, carefully recounting each text, each Facebook interaction, and every instance of betrayal. He asked if I'd testify if the case went to a hearing. Absolutely. The gravity of the situation was sinking. I wasn't just defending myself. I was standing up for anyone who had been violated in the same way. Then came the unexpected. A Facebook message from a woman named Claire. She'd seen my post in a local community group and reached out, trembling as she typed. Dr. Brooks was my therapist too. She told my mother about my sessions. I thought I was losing my mind. "Can we talk?" Over the next week, Claire revealed the extent of Dr. Brooks' misconduct, befriending family members, sharing intimate session details, even manipulating parents to confront her at home. Then, more patients came forward. Jessica, Amy, Catherine Itch, with a harrowing story of private sessions weaponized against them. Dr. Brooks had crossed boundaries systematically, coaching partners and family members, giving them instructions on how to trigger emotional responses. Using therapy as a tool for control, the deeper I dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't an isolated lapse in judgment, it was an ongoing pattern. In conversations, emails, and texts, Dr. Brooks had advised my ex-girlfriend to provoke emotional reactions, monitor my responses, and subtly paint me as unstable. Each message I forwarded to Robert was another nail in her professional coffin. The irony was brutal. She was trying to protect me from myself, while simultaneously violating every principle of her profession. Meanwhile, Jenna, the original architect of this betrayal, hesitated for days before finally admitting she'd felt compelled by Dr. Brooks' manipulation, and that she now recognized how wrong it had been. Weeks later, the board moved faster than I anticipated. Once 5 patients filed complaints with documented evidence, The wheels turned rapidly. Dr. Brooks was suspended pending investigation. She reacted with panic and denial mails, calls, even showing up at Claire's workplace. Legal threats followed, including cease and desist letters, which were promptly forwarded to Robert. But the more she tried to spin the narrative, the deeper she sank. She fabricated session notes on a public website, painting us all as delusional, claiming violence and paranoia when none existed. The irony was thick. Her fake notes only highlighted how carefully our real evidence disproved every claim she made. The hearing itself was surreal. 5 of us, testifying via Zoom, recounting timelines, messages, and manipulations. Dr. Brooks appeared on screen. Conservative suit, glasses perched precisely, but her calm veneer cracked as our testimonies exposed her misconduct. She argued we misunderstood therapeutic methods, that involving families sometimes was necessary, that we were lying. But the board chair, a sharp older woman, cut through the nonsense with precision. Mr. Peterson, are you suggesting discussing a patient's sexual assault with their mother via Facebook Messenger is standard practice? The lawyer floundered. By the time Natalie, the catalyst of this entire chaos, testified, the truth was undeniable. She laid bare the coaching, the manipulation, and Dr. Brooks' attempt to label me dangerous, all while I had done nothing more than set boundaries with my ex. Within hours, the verdict was delivered. License revoked permanently. Criminal prosecution for HIPAA violations initiated. 11 documented violations, each carrying significant penalties. Dr. Brooks' career imploded. Lawsuits, financial ruin, public disgrace. Insurance dropped her. Lawsuits piled on. Her home in foreclosure. Her practice shuttered. The woman who had once seemed so authoritative and trustworthy was reduced to scrambling for a shred of credibility. And all this because she projected her own failures and insecurities onto me, using my life as a canvas for her chaos. In the aftermath, life felt surreal. Dr. Brooks' reign of manipulation had ended, but the ripples touched all of us deeply. I found a new therapist, recommended by Claire, someone ethical, grounded, and entirely offline. First session, I asked about social media policies. I don't use it, and I never friend patients or family members, he said with a calm smile. Relief washed over me like a tidal wave. For the first time in months, I felt safe discussing my trauma without fear it would be weaponized against me. Progress was slow, cautious but genuine. I began to trust again, first in therapy, then, slowly, in myself. Jenna reached out once, 2 weeks ago. An apology email acknowledging her own mistakes, admitting she'd been manipulated, and that she now understood the scale of Dr. Brooks' unethical behavior. She mentioned therapy for herself, a real one this time, and reflected on how toxic the situation had become. I responded simply, I hope you find peace. There was no reconciliation, no turning back. That bridge had been burned, not with anger, but with clarity. We were both victims of manipulation, but the relationship had already been fractured long before Dr. Brooks intervened. Some things, once broken, cannot be rebuilt. The board's action reverberated nationally. Dr. Brooks was permanently barred from practicing therapy in any state. Criminal prosecution led to probation, community service, and heavy fines. Her malpractice insurance sued her to recover damages, and more former patients came forward, filing civil suits. Her public persona was in ruins. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, and reputational collapse followed. The woman who had once seemed infallibly trusted professional had destroyed herself with her own deceit. projecting personal failures onto innocent patients. She even had to disclose her revoked license in her new life as a life coach, a constant reminder of her misdeeds. But the most important outcome wasn't legal or financial, it was personal. I wasn't crazy. My instincts had been right all along. Trust your gut, I remind myself every day. When something feels off, it probably is. I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't calculated, isn't dramatic, it's simply holding people accountable, refusing to let betrayal go unchecked. The truth has its own power. Today, I'm part of a small virtual support group with the other 4 patients who filed complaints. We meet monthly, sharing stories, supporting new victims of unethical therapy practices, and ensuring that no one else feels isolated in these situations. Knowledge is power, and none of us should have endured this alone. The group is growing slowly, quietly, a quiet rebellion against abuse of trust in professional spaces. Looking back, it's strange to think that a single text, the most insane, shocking, and violating I've ever received, was the trigger for a cascade of justice. It destroyed careers, exposed lies, and reshaped lives. But it also reaffirmed a simple truth: boundaries exist for a reason. Ethical lines exist for a reason. And when those lines are crossed, sometimes the consequences follow naturally, without need for vengeance. All I did was document. All we did was stand up. Now, every time I see my phone, I think back to that first text. Instead of panic, I feel clarity. Instead of fear, I feel resolution. I know the system worked, that accountability matters, and that doing the right thing, even when painful, even when messy, can restore a sense of justice. I'm moving forward, slowly but surely, rebuilding trust, rebuilding life, and most importantly, reminding myself that I am not defined by someone else's betrayal. And if there's one last piece of advice from this entire ordeal, it's this: if your therapist ever tries to friend your family on social media, run, document, and report. Because the cost of silence is far too high, and your truth is worth protecting.